Okay, so in my last video, I went over what I think are the worst contracts for 2025, so it's only appropriate that I talk about what I think are the best contracts for 2025. Let's get to it. Let's start this off with an easy one. Corbin Carroll. The 2023 NL Rookie of the Year has been worth every penny and then some of his extremely team-friendly 8-year, $111 million contract so far. Over the first 2 years of the contract, he's put up a 120 WRC plus while hitting 47 home runs and stealing 89 bases. My goodness. Now, sure, the contract is a bit more backloaded, but even still, each of the last couple of years on his deal are under $30 million, and he'll still be under 30 years old by then. On to the A's, and I got Brent Brooker, and they actually just got this contract extension done this past offseason. So, sure, we don't know what's going to happen moving forward on the 5-year, $60 million deal, but based off of what he's done over the last 2 years, along with only getting paid $12 million a year moving forward, this could end up being a massive steal. Over the last 2 years, he's put up an F-WAR of 7.2, which is worth right around $50 million, which includes 69 home runs and a 145 WRC plus. He is definitely one of the best bats in baseball as of right now. Moving on to the Braves, and here's another easy one, Ronald Acuna Jr. Now, I know he just got his second ACL surgery this past year, but we all know what Acuna can do, winning the MVP a couple of years ago after the first 40-70 season, while only having an AAV of $12.5 million. Moving on to the Orioles, and I'll go with Zach Eflin. He only has one more year left on his deal, but for $18 million, I think that's a pretty fair value. He's been solid over the last couple of years, putting up an average F-WAR of around 3.8, which is worth right around $30 million. On to my Red Sox, and I'll go with Brian Bayo. He hasn't fully put it together at the major league level yet, still working on trying to be consistent, but he showed a lot of good flashes over the last couple of years, including a very good second half this past year, in which he posted a 3.47 ERA. He's only 25 years old, and he only has an AAV of just over $9 million. Moving on to the Cubs, and I have Shota Imanaga. Imanaga came over to the States last year, and he was absolutely fantastic, posting an ERA of 2.91 and a FIP of 3.72 with 9 strikeouts per 9 and only 1.4 walks per 9. My goodness. And he only has an AAV of $14 million per year. On to the other team in Chicago, and I guess I'll go with Luis Robert. And to be honest, if he could stay healthy, his 6-year, $50 million contract would be an absolute steal. Now, he definitely has the talent to exceed the contract by a country mile. He just needs to stay on the field. For the Reds, I have Hunter Green. He signed a 6-year, $53 million contract back in 2023, and last year he took a big step forward, posting an F-WAR of 3.8, worth around $30 million, which included an ERA of 2.75, a FIP of 3.47, and 10 strikeouts per 9. For the Guardians, I have one of the best players in baseball, Jose Ramirez. He signed a very team-friendly deal back in 2022 for 7 years and $141 million, and so far, through the first 3 years of the contract, he's almost met that value, putting up a combined F-WAR of 17.1, which is worth right around $140 million. On to the Rockies, and I have shortstop Ezequiel Tovar. He's on a very team-friendly deal of 7 years and $63.5 million, and so far, he's been pretty solid in the first year of the deal. He posted a 3.7 F-WAR in which he hit 269, slugged 469 with 26 homers, while also playing some of the best defense in all of baseball, and he's still very young. For the Tigers, I have Colt Keith. Here's an example of a guy signing a contract before even playing a single major league game. He signed a 6-year, $28.6 million contract last year that bought out his arbitration years, and they also have a few double-digit club options after that. Now, as for his first year in the major leagues, he was a bit inconsistent, but he showed pretty good plate discipline while also ranking in the 80th percentile in expected batting average. Moving on to the Astros, and we got an easy one here, Yordan Alvarez. Simply put, he's been one of the best hitters in baseball over the last few years, ranking second in WRC plus over that time, only behind Shohei Ohtani, while making an AAV under $20 million, for crying out loud. Sure, he has been a little prone to injuries, but his contract is an absolute steal. Moving on to one of the best players in the game, Bobby Witt Jr. This guy would have been the MVP last year if it wasn't for the monster season Aaron Judge put up. He hit .332 with a .977 OPS and 32 home runs while playing some of the best defense in the game at shortstop. And sure, his contract is a bit big, 11 years and $288 million. There's a couple club options at the end of it, along with some opt-outs sprinkled in there, but he's only just about to turn 25 years old after a monster season. This is extremely good value. Moving on to the Angels, and I'll go with the newly signed Yusei Kikuchi. He's been pretty solid over the last couple of years, averaging right around a 3 FWAR, which is worth right around $24 million. He's on a 3-year, $63 million contract, so he has an AAV of $21 million. So I think this is pretty fair value. On to the Dodgers, and I got the first $700 million man in baseball, Shohei Ohtani. Now, there are some layers here. Most of the contract is deferred, so he's only making $2 million of his $70 million salary each year. And sure, the Dodgers are going to have to pay the rest of it down the road, but by that time, they'll probably have made the money back anyway, thanks to all the revenue Ohtani is going to be bringing in from TV revenue to advertisements in Japan, ticket sales, merchandise sales, whatever else. This guy is a money machine. And as for his play, well, that kind of speaks for itself. Last year, he put up the first 50-50 season in the history of Major League Baseball, which to an FWAR of 9.1, worth right around $70 million. He's also going back to the mound this year, which shouldn't really hurt either. Now, it's very possible his performance will regress in the back half of the contract, but again, I think the first half of this deal at least is going to be extremely good value. He's going to be bringing in a ton of money for the Dodgers over the next several years. This is absolutely a great contract, even though it is astronomically high. Howdy, everybody. Just want to take a quick break and shout out today's sponsor, Factor. Factor takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success. So you can skip the grocery stores and the prep work and instead get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week to fit your goals, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, and more, it's a no-brainer. Factor even offers loads of snack options like breakfast, smoothies, juices, small bites, and more to keep me going no matter what's on the schedule for the day. For me personally, Factor is an absolute game changer because most of my days are spent making videos for this channel, working on the Monster Territory podcast with the Foul Territory Network, while also making sure to get to the gym and also try to have a personal life on the side as well. Sure, I like to try and cook my meals at home as much as possible, but hey, life, it gets in the way, and Factor's there for me when I need it. So what are you waiting for? Head to factor75.com or click the link in the description below and use code 50HIDE to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's code 50HIDE at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Why, yes, the Marlins do actually have a contract on their payroll, and that's Sandy Alcantara. Sure, he missed all of 2024 after getting Tommy John surgery, but prior to that, this guy was a workhorse, putting up great numbers. He averaged an ERA of 3.20 over the last 3 seasons, while averaging over 200 innings per year. He's on a 5-year, $56 million contract. That is extremely team-friendly, and even with missing a whole year this past year, this is still very good value, and because of that, along with the state of the Marlins right now and how good this guy can be, he's probably going to get traded this year, and he should bring back a good return of prospects. Here's another example of a player signing a long-term deal before playing one major league game, Jackson Chourio. He was the number 2 prospect coming in last year and ended up signing an 8-year, $82 million contract with a couple of club options at the end. And sure, he did get off to a bit of a slow start this past year, but he had a great second half, posted good numbers overall, including a 117 WRC+, a 791 OPS, 21 home runs, 22 stolen bases, and he played great defense in the outfield. There is a ton of upside here. He's a 5-tool player moving forward, and it's already looking like great value. On to the Twins, and I'll go with Pablo Lopez. He's on a 4-year, $73.5 million contract, which is a little over $18 million annually. Over the last 3 seasons, he's pitched at least 180 innings a year, while averaging an ERA of 3.83 and a FIP of 3.56 with just under 10 strikeouts per 9. On to the Mets, and I'm going to go with the largest contract in baseball history, owned by Juan Soto. Now, you might be thinking here, Robbie, you're out of your freaking mind. This is a 15-year, $765 million contract. There's no way this ages well. Well, to me personally, I think what he ends up doing in the front half of the deal is going to be very good value. Last year with the Yankees, he put up an 8.1 FWAR worth right around $65 million. He's only 26 years years old and just going into the prime of his career. So I honestly think the production he puts up over the next 7 to 8 years is going to be worth a big chunk of the contract. This was a franchise-altering signing and a big statement in the state of New York, especially with what the Yankees have been doing for so long. And the fact that they took him away from the Yankees was just massive in itself. He's on pace to be a Hall of Famer down the road. You're going to have all the ticket sales, the merchandise sales, and whatnot on top of that. And sure, there is a chance the contract doesn't age well in the last few years of the deal, but I think because he's such a good hitter, he's so disciplined at the plate. So even if he DHs later on, I still expect him to put up at least decent numbers down the road. I think this was a great signing overall. However, I'm also going to mention Francisco Lindor. This guy has been so good for so long now. He is on a big contract himself, 10 years, $341 million, and AAV just under $32 million. But he is exceeding that production every single year. One of the best shortstops in the game. Lindor, sure, is getting paid a lot, but I think it's money well spent. Speaking of the Yankees, I'm going to go with Aaron Judge. He signed a 9-year, $360 million contract back in 2023, and so far, it's been well worth it. Over the last 2 seasons, he's put up a 15.9 F-WAR, which is worth right around $127 million. He's 2 seasons in, and he's almost worth half of the contract so far as one of the best players today, if not the best player in all of baseball. For the Phillies, I'm going to go a bit outside the box here and go with Christopher Sanchez. Don't get me wrong, I think Bryce Harper is money very well spent, but man, Christopher Sanchez's contract is an absolute steal. He's about to start a 4-year, $22.5 million contract extension he signed this past year with a couple of cheaper club options on the end, and he's coming off a very good season in which he put up a 3.32 ERA and a 3.00 FIP with over 180 innings pitched. Altogether, his F-WAR was a 4.7, which is worth right around $38 million, and with an AAV under $6 million moving forward, this is very good value. Why, yes, Bob Nutting has actually paid someone before, and Mitch Keller is my pick for the Pirates here. He's on a 5-year, $77 million contract that started this past year, and his AAV of $15.4 million, I think is pretty solid. Over the last couple of seasons, he has averaged over 180 innings pitched while averaging a decent ERA and FIP. While he's not an ace-level pitcher by any means, I think he's pretty solid, and he's not breaking the bank. On to the Padres, and I have Fernando Tatis Jr. Sure, it wasn't too long ago when he was having some issues off the field, but it seems like he's gotten himself together over the last couple of years. His 14-year, $338 million contract is definitely a commitment, but he's still only 26 years old, and he's put up some pretty solid numbers when healthy over the last couple of years, which has been worth more than his AAV. Again, he is still very young. I'm expecting a lot more out of him moving forward. On to the Giants, and I got Logan Webb. Not much to say here, to be honest. He's making $18 million a year on a 5-year, $90 million contract, and year after year after year, this guy puts up some of the best numbers in baseball, averaging an F-WAR in the 4s every year, worth anywhere from $32 to $40 million a season. This is great value. Here's another young player with a big contract on this list, Julio Rodriguez of the Mariners. He signed a 12-year, $209 million contract with some options at the back end of it back in 2023. So an AAV around $17.5 million per season. His numbers did dip a little bit this past season after a couple of very good seasons, but he hit much better in the second half. And at only 24 years old, we haven't even seen the best of what this guy can do. On to the Cardinals, and I'm going to go with Eric Fetty. Last offseason, he came over from the KBO after winning the Cy Young equivalent over there, and he signed a 2-year deal with the White Sox for $15 million, an AAV of $7.5 million per year. Not too shabby. Last year, he put up some numbers worth that, and then some, including an ERA of 3.30 and a FIP of 3.86. For the Rays, I'm going to go with Brandon Lau. Now, I know he's been hurt a lot over the last couple of years, but when he's healthy, he does produce. Even though he hasn't played more than 110 games in the last couple of years, he's still hit at least 20 home runs with an average WRC plus just under 120. On to the Rangers, and I'll go with Corey Seager. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Isn't Corey Seager hurt a lot and still has 7 more years left on his massive contract? Well, Yes, both of those are true. He signed a 10-year, $325 million contract back in 2022, but so far, he's been worth it. He's made $107 million so far on the contract, but he's put up over $120 million in field value, and he was a huge part of the 2023 championship. It's going to be interesting to see how the back half of the deal goes, but right now, I think he's worth it. For the Blue Jays, I got Kevin Gausman. He signed a 5-year, $110 million contract back in 2022, and sure, his numbers took a slight dip this past year, but every year for the most part, this guy produces, and so far through the first 3 years of the deal, he's made $66 million, but overall, he's already met that value of his deal, putting up over $110 million in field value. I expect him to be at least solid over the last 2 years of the deal. And last but not least, for the Nationals, I'll go with Trevor Williams. Williams came out of nowhere last year after a lot of down years, posting a 2.03 ERA and a 2.79 FIP over 13 starts. He did miss a bit of time with some arm issues, but despite that, it looks like he figured it out, and the Nationals rewarded him with a 2-year, $14 million contract. I mean, hey, $7 million per season sounds pretty good if you ask me, especially if he can replicate these numbers again moving forward. But everyone, those are my picks for the best contracts for each team in 2025. Give me your thoughts down below. Which are some contracts that you think are the best in Major League Baseball? But everyone, that's all I got for right now. If you can on the way out, hit that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new. We're getting so close to 50K subscribers. Help us get there, and I'll love you forever. But everybody, that's all I got for right now. I'll talk to you next time.